Paloma, how are you? Nico, what time is it in Germany? It's kind of late, right? 7:20. Jorge, hope to get to see you again. Alex, are you in Spain? It's like 7:30, right? 7:20. Just like Germany, same time zone. Okay, let me welcome you all. Let me introduce the audience. Paloma works in WhatsApp Latin America. She's the public policy manager for WhatsApp Argentina. Alex Rachon works for the Digital Future Society from Spain, and Nicolas Diaz Ferreira. He works in the Institute of Software Security of Hamburg at the University of Technology, TUHH. And he's based in Germany, but he's from Rosario, he's Argentinian. There are some people from, or students from Santa Fe, as a matter of fact. And we have all the students in person and online, since this is a hybrid event with a new modality. Jorge, over to you. Great to see you once again. My pleasure. Thank you very much. I would like to acknowledge Adrian, the two of you, and I would like to thank the panelists for being here. We're going to be speaking on social media and how impactful they are on communities. It's a privilege to have these panels. We had the chance to share some other congresses and events with Paloma, with Nicole, and Alex. To tell you the truth, addressing or kicking off with this panel opens up many, many doors. Jorge is based in Mexico, Mexico, Argentina, Spain, and Germany. And the students that are attending in person and those that are attending online. Great to see you. Long live Mexico. It's great to see how changes were produced over the years, and many of them could not be anticipated, unconceivable. As Ben Serve said, this is across the board that are part of the realities of our lives. As Marcos was discussing yesterday in connection with the blockchain, the largest blockchain network across the world that is operational, is underway now. And it's great to see the universe of e-government that disruptively has come on board, especially with Estonia, together with its digital channels, seeking constantly the demise of paperwork government, especially becoming smarter so this could produce or result into a smoother operation for citizens that have access to paperwork in the public and in the private sector. So, including social media in the government and in the day-to-day operations has been very impactful. Together with the challenges that we're faced with, precisely we witness that of fragmentation, not only in regulations, such as the European regulations of digital markets and digital channels that have set new standards. And that is why it is important and relevant to hold this panel addressing some of the topics where we are going to be witnessing some of the topics or trends addressed by the stakeholders and analyzing the impact on social media. And I'll give the floor to Paloma first, ladies first. We will hear from you, and I know that you have a PowerPoint presentation that you would like to share, so you can kick off this panel. And if that is the case, it is my pleasure to welcome you. Over to you, Paloma. floor is all yours. Great. It's a great pleasure to share this panel with these colleagues. I would like to acknowledge Olga, Adrian, for having extended the invitation to participate in this panel. I don't have a PowerPoint, however, I can give you an overview of this topic, that is social networks and its impact in the on the community. Bringing two perspectives to light, especially WhatsApp with a regional perspective. First and foremost, conceiving social networks, social media, and the community. Let me disclaim a few things. WhatsApp is not a social network, but an instant messaging platform, an end-to-end platform that is totally encrypted with millions of users, billions of users in more than 180 countries. So it's not a minor thing. It's a free service, simple, and reliably we have so many users having access to this platform, especially having the protection of end-to-end encryption or encrypted data. What does this mean, having an end-to-end encryption? Well, basically it means that no other third party or stakeholder may have access to the personal communication. If I'm texting Jorge or I'm getting an audio or a video link, that is protected by cryptology, and I will not have the key to that log. The same goes for any other sort of conversation. The only people that are going to have access to that log, encrypted log, that is going to be protected by my cryptography log, are people that are members of that WhatsApp group. And an add-on is not designed to grow with audiences. I mean, the only way to contact people in WhatsApp is if we have their phone number. That is, we cannot type Palomra Serman and find my contact as we do it with other social media. So this is characteristic or typical of WhatsApp, and it makes WhatsApp an instant messaging platform. And we don't have a content algorithm suggestion. We have, and there's no moderation either. The content circulated in WhatsApp is what we share among users. There's no other contact in our platform, and by the end-to-end encryption. Not even WhatsApp nobody in WhatsApp can have access to that content. So it's unlike other platforms that suggest other content where they prioritize content or they moderate it. Having clarified this, I would like to introduce two ways in how WhatsApp impacts on the community. This is related to the overview that I described at the very beginning. How can we keep WhatsApp, or how can we prevent the misinformation in WhatsApp if we don't have that algorithm or open algorithm? And basically, we encrypt that content and fight content that come from malicious players, especially if we cannot see that content. To tell you the truth, when we invest a lot of money in keeping WhatsApp a safe place, safe environment to fight misinformation. First, on the platform design, where we mitigate those risks or the viral content, because what we forward in WhatsApp, especially when does not come from the original source, it has a special label that cannot be forwarded to many people, and it cannot be forwarded to a large number of users, but to a maximum of 5 conversations out of the 1 could be to a group. So globally, we restrict 25% the number of messages being sent, and those that reflected or replicated more than 5 times can send it one time to one person. So imagine we basically mitigate those forwards to 50%. So we have 1 billion messages less circulated messages that could be harmful or viral content in this platform. WhatsApp is also fighting abuse, like paying attention to the behavior. If we don't have a look at the content, what is it that we do? Well, we use AI to identify behavior that corresponds to spam at higher rates than a human eye will detect. If you are creating accounts, if the reciprocity levels is low, and especially if that account has a lot of reports or spam reports. So this is the contribution to the community. And there's a second contribution or thought. What we have noticed during the COVID-19 pandemic is that we are aware of the responsibility that we have as a company, as an end-to-end encryption platform, because we are present in 1,800 with more than 2 billion users. So we've been working on the availability of tools for users to double-check information and content over the internet that they may receive in WhatsApp. During elections, we work with politicians that were exposed. If you're from Peru, you know that the 2 elect presidents or the 2 running presidents had these kind of tools. The same goes for Argentina. The same goes for Brazil during the elections held in Brazil. But we wanted to make one more step forward, since WhatsApp, together with other social impactful tools, like during the pandemic in Chile, we made a partnership we wanted to talk with Chile, that's the name of it, for the citizens of Chile to be motivated responsibly when drafting new sections of the Constitution. This was country bought, and through WhatsApp, there was a tool that allows citizens to participate and give their opinion on the Constitution. We prevent violence or gender-based violence, like check Argentina, Garcia in Colombia, the French agency at the regional level, just to mention a few. And lastly, the last impact on the community that I want you to take is that we made large efforts to maintain the integrity of the WhatsApp platform, to fight misinformation, to keep it safe. We know that there's always going to be the bad guys. However, our attention that we pay to the platform is with discipline and careful, and having this ecosystem outlook. Not only can we fight the bad things in the platform, but innovate on new things and finding new ways of seeking information and offering governmental services. Thank you very much, and I'll give the floor to my other colleagues in the panel. Paloma, thank you very much. An interesting perspective. This approach of WhatsApp as a private end-to-end encryption instant messaging platform is very effective in the way you see responsibility tied to that encryption platform. Right now, I'll give the floor to Alex so he can share his presentation and share your thoughts from the perspective of the European Union and especially of your organization. We are all ears. Thank you, Jorge. It's a pleasure to join you. And good afternoon to all the attendees in South America. Thank you for the invitation. I will make some housekeeping details before I give my presentation. First, I have principles in the way I see the internet, and that's why I would like to give an introduction. And I will approach it from the perspective of Spain for communication platforms, and we have many cases published over the internet. And many of the things that are important here is that the internet, especially when I address the issue of social networks, should not be focused on trunking nodes or central nodes. And this is important so we could have general ideas that always enrich these discussions. Now, underlying to these concepts, Estonia is a small country and is a very homogeneous country. Spain is larger and more heterogeneous. And it's true that Estonia built digital services over a decentralized structure. And to take it to a large scale is more complex. And the same goes for the internet. You have central nodes that govern communications on top of social networks, and we shouldn't lose sight on the role played by governments that they use the twisted pair to communicate information. If you have power on the twisted pair of cables, you will always be able to make decisions, discretionary, political, or arbitrary decisions. If we see that the largest communication network should be in the hands of a few central powers or cables, there are islands or countries where you have only 3 cables, so if you cut them loose, there's no more communication. That's why I keep questioning this. And once the data enters the country, there should be tier or topology internet layers over the physical layers that should make decisions on the way we communicate. For me, digital communications are public assets. As such, we have been advocating those for years. We're not the only ones, not even Spain or the European Unions are the ones that are defending this as a public asset. In that regard, let me introduce another element here. We usually confuse the internet between moderation and censorship, and sometimes we make mistakes, especially in Twitter, to express freely our views. I don't know of any platforms where there's digital communication and in turn where moderation is not required. It is impossible because we are human beings and we tend to argue. There tends to be chaos, so moderation is required, but sometimes misunderstanding, governing or ruling with censorship. That is not the same thing. And that is why what I believe in, as it was well explained by Paloma, where there are communication rules that moderate or they introduce certain policymaking, I believe that this is required, but I don't know if it has to be in a central or trunking node, or probably we should have another tier, not private companies, but not profit for or companies that are for profit that should be the moderators. For me, this communication should be of public interest and not necessarily governed by the central nodes by a private company. And as the first generation that we are leveraging this private communications, digital communications, if we're not demanding enough, I don't know how are they going to operate. I mean, the most disruptive technology has been the internet, and the first generation that used it moderated. If we trace back to history, I'm sure you're going to find examples. Probably electricity was the last technology that produced so many relevant technologies that led to the internet. And right now we're in the second or the third generation where we came to understand the benefits of electricity. So we're very demanding on the way that the internet has to be like. And we have to explain that because disruptive technologies are like that, like nuclear power. Other technology that could not be understood as such and its impact until the third generation. It took us a while to understand how nuclear power was. And I would like to conclude my remarks by addressing social networks that right now, lately, they have become into entertainment media. Social network, and I teach this at the university, is a space or a forum where people relate, discuss. When Facebook Traces Back was created in 2005, you had a paper and you had the creation of communities, Facebook profiles for individuals. However, the algorithm that involves and intermeddles with this content, especially those people that are or social networks that place priority upon advertising. They place priority basically on entertainment and media, but not on the public good. And they do this because of business reasons. So when it comes to social networks, I would believe this is related to TikTok. So we are taking society as a TikTok user. You have stories and you have reels in order to show stories. So I don't know if it's a social network. These are entertainment media, and they basically entertain people, but they are not discussion forums to relate to one another. So probably we should wonder that given the space, basically we should know what we are as human beings, how we should behave, because we are in the hands of a few that want to maximize profits and eventually entertaining people. That basically this is not consistent with freedom of expression of individuals. And at the end of the day, as Charlie Mandel's book says, most of the large investments made across the world, they follow incentives. So we need to understand that this serves to what government or what company lies behind, because these discussions, when they become general, they are very complex because there are legitimate interests in the hands of private companies. That's why I wanted to understand the nature of communication media, so we understand the political and the wishes of governments, especially to understand what goes through these channels of communication. So I'll give the floor to the other panelists so we can have a roundtable discussion later. Paloma wants to leave because we're running behind the time right now. So I will ask a question to her. Some kind of thorny question. What's up? Telegram. What's the other one? Signal. I have the three of them. Which one is better? Why do I have to leave WhatsApp? I like WhatsApp. I like all of them, the three of them. But why people are telling me not to use WhatsApp? And right now, they send me to a Signal for a WhatsApp for a group discussion. What should I fear? Should I stay? Should I keep WhatsApp? Interestingly enough, I can tell you two things. I cannot discuss other instant messaging applications. I can only work on behalf of WhatsApp. You mentioned the three options, and we can include probably another one that we're missing. It's a highly competitive market with many choices for consumers, and that is in line with their needs to satisfy their privacy expectations, features, functionalities that they may want to use. So first and foremost, if you have choices, it's because it's a highly competitive market and it's good. As users, this benefits users and for the market because this healthy competition drives applications to be better. That's the first thought. Second, what I can tell you is that out of these choices, you may choose over asserted information because there are many biases on what is safer, what is less safe, what is more private, or what has no privacy. What I can argue is that WhatsApp works based on two principles that are fundamental and that basically excel over others. The first one is that we have an end-to-end encryption. Not all applications have that encryption, and it's very important that users know this. What does end-to-end encryption means? Especially when the data is in transit. Under a few exceptions, specific exception, WhatsApp does not store their conversations on our servers. That content is saved exclusively in the user's devices, and if they choose so, in their backup security copies, whether it is iCloud or Google accounts, but not in our servers. And we cannot even see their content. Not all applications, or instant message applications, have encryption configured by default, or instant messaging applications offer end-to-end encryption in a wide range of conversations that they produce. And even if they offer encryption, it's not in-transit encryption, it's not saved in its servers. And we use the Signal encryption protocol. That is just the same protocol that Signal uses. However, we invest a lot of money to advocate this encryption. That what differs WhatsApp from other applications is that some of the data are necessary to keep the platform's integrity and safety. Regulatory speaking, across the world, there's a fight against the encryption, like the UK, New Zealand, Brazil, Australia, that based on different topics, because child abuse, pornography, terrorist attacks. So they want to weaken our encryption so they can have access to the conversation. WhatsApp goes against that. And in order to keep WhatsApp as a safe place, as any instant messaging application, certain data is necessary. We don't pay attention to the conversation. We talk about basically the profile pictures, the phone number, or title, so that, or status, so that is used to fight the bad guys. Yes, and if they gather information, let's have to see if they can keep and save that and store that information safely in order to fight the bad guys. There's a lot of competition in the market. There are many options, choices, and you need to be well informed when it comes to choosing. And this is what we present. So for users to choose the best app. I have the three of them, and they drive me crazy because people are texting on the three of them. Thank you very much. I'm on top of email. Thank you very much for participating, and thank you very much for participating in the school, just like in any or every edition they've been present. Sorry, Jorge. I had to ask Paloma the question on the three platforms. Thank you very much, Paloma. Let's continue with the next presentation. It's going to be addressed by Nico. This philosophical journey that was raised by Alex, especially of this nature of having the media warning us on the phenomenon that social media have become an entertainment media. Like that we are becoming like TikTok in society. So with this impact, we've seen the realm of dopamine in emotional stimulus created by social media because of readiness and because of the lack of reflection or meditation and reflection on the impact that content that we share in these platforms may have because of his promptness or readiness. And Nicolas has made excellent work. As a matter of fact, he shared not only his presentation, but an interesting paper that he's going to delve into detail during his presentation. Nico, it's a great pleasure to see you here. We're glad to have you here and to learn from you. Thank you very much, Jorge, Olga, for giving me the chance in the South School of Internet Governance that my group and I have been doing research on social media, privacy, etc. I was the one that had the presentation of Paloma. Can I share my PowerPoint? Or can you screen it from there? Go ahead. Screen share. I think that we have it in the cloud. Can you see it? Yes. One of the issues that we have to discuss, or that we discussed before the panel, was how much hatred was discussed during the COVID-19 pandemic and how haters have become a problem, especially in the way we interact in social media and how we experience them at times of the pandemic or having critical problems. I would like to elaborate on these ideas to discuss this further. When we talk about the hatred discussion, are excluding expressions that incite to violence, they undermine social cohesion, and they cause psychological damage, emotional and physical damage to those affected ones. One of the main elements of the hatred discourse or speech is discrimination added to the stereotype and biases and prejudices. And there are other excluding expressions that are not necessarily hatred speeches. For example, if I tell that Nicolas, or if I say that Nicolas is ugly, it has an excluding element, but it doesn't incite or lead to violence. This is a distinctive nature in the hatred speech that is violence. There was a white paper produced by the United Nations, and I believe that it was called The Pandemic of Hate Speech or Hatred, especially because they said stop Agent H, or the vaccine speech that produce a lot of hate speech in social media. As Alex well explained, we still have pressures and friction between moderation, content moderation, and freedom of speech or freedom of expression. And there's no way how to tackle this challenge. There are practical guidelines. However, in platforms, we have a self-regulation model for moderating content. Each platform has its own definition, regulatory framework, and connected with the hate speech. And as Alex well explained, and it was mentioned by Paloma, this hate speech on a day-to-day is moderated and is controlled by AI mechanisms. Personally, I haven't had any AI projects for hate speech, but some colleagues of mine did that. And the state of the art and the AI algorithms to detect or to identify hate speeches are not perfect. The use of sarcasm, irony, sometimes they are detrimental to the performance of the algorithm, and that may result into censorship. As you know, for those of you that know me, I work on privacy, and that's why I would like to relate privacy to hate speech. For this purpose, it is important to talk about the recommendation systems on social media. These are the main components of social media. And the guidelines are based, as Paloma and Alex say, on our personal data and that of our contacts, what is usually referred to as collaborative greenfield. And probably the recommendation is not based on our history of browsing, but the history of browsing, likes, comments, reviews. This is the collaborative filtering. Now, recommendation systems in automated publications or news is that lead us to information bubbles. Information bubbles are virtual spaces that isolate users regarding the external factors that the individual have in mind. To a much lesser extent or greater extent, usually misinformation that could promote hate speech like vaccinations. It's a matter of decision making, of what I do with what is being recommended by the algorithm. Do I share it? Do I like it? Do I review it, comment it? I mean, the role that we play as users in this process is paramount. This yellow logo to the right, there was a campaign raised by the United Nations, and they were trying to promote was to pause before you share material, that it needs to be reviewed, considered, and we need to consider that we are part of this problem and we could be part of the solution as well. There are some technologies that could help us out with reflected upon decisions made over social media. For example, nutrition labels. As I said before, in Mexico, I had some colleagues that worked on some kind of nutrition label that tells you the number of calories, for example, or how much hate speech there is on this piece of news for you to have an idea of what we're sharing. And the issue that I wanted to share, especially is what Jorge mentioned at the very beginning, are called preventive nudges. For those of you that are not familiar with nudges or nudging, nudges are impulses or minor changes in the decision-making system, where is the context where you make decisions, the objective of which is to lead to a beneficial behavior. And that's why we've been working with my team to decision-making in terms of privacy on social media. And I wanted to share an article with you that was recently published in the European Symposium of Resistivity, where we use nudging to share information on Instagram. For this purpose, we created an application that basically had the same features, just like Instagram, but it differed because we wanted to share, we selected post text or we post pictures, but there was an intervention or a pop-up message or window that said, are you ready to share? And we did two versions over an edition that had ready to post, and the other one, there was a description of a disclosure of a risk pattern, for example. So right in between it says other users have problems at work when they have published, for example, a picture with nudity. So we assess this application and the interventions or the postings. Basically, what they try to, or what they aim at doing is to promote beneficial behavior in terms of privacy with users and to see how these people will react faced with these interventions. We're running for 7 days, and we gather a lot of metrics and information related to the effectiveness of these messages. We had a total of 137 events. We had 22 participants or respondents, and respondents that use this pattern of risk, they share less information than those respondents that didn't get it. Obviously, we're speaking of a small group, a small cohort. There were no statistics or significant statistics. However, they were revealing and encouraging, especially to apply it to a larger cohort later on. However, one of the objectives or one of the reasons why we did this design, it was because when we are faced with interactions on social media, at first they are subject to an impulsive sort of behavior. So to promote a reflection exactly in the process when it comes to sharing information, is very difficult, especially if you consider that the risk factor, especially when you make a decision when there is not. Everything is great in social media. You're urged to share, but you don't know what is going to happen and how impactful you're going to be, not even horizontally, where you run the risks of reputation, bullying, grooming, or vertically. That is what companies may do with our data. So this is what motivates us to promote a more reflective process when it came to decision making. This same process is transferred or relates to the information, hate speech, or misinformation. This is what I wanted to share very briefly, so I can take questions from the audience. Thank you very much. Almost self-explanatory, very good reflections. Everything that you have shared was great. To Olga, probably we can continue with the Q&A. Can you pass a roving mic? So if there are questions in the audience, whether it is in person or for those attendees that are online, I'm sure you can ask them so the panelists can take those questions. While we wait for the roving mic, we have students online and in person. But while we wait for the microphones, let me see some of the highlights. Alex said something about social networks, that they became entertainment media. Aren't they informative? Don't they provide information instead of providing merely entertainment? And Nicholas said something about assessing risk. The test that you did was great. And that pop-up window was great before sharing. I don't know if information would be shared in the same way if we had that pop-up window. I have a student here. Probably you can identify yourself and tell them where you're from. My name is Carolina Camacho from Colombia. A question for Nicholas. It's great to see the results on your survey and on your research. I wanted to ask you to what extent this reflection has created an undesired effect like self-censorship, and probably is a new approach that gives responsibility to the individual and prevents discussions that we can give on public spaces, respect to privacy, even online. Is even though when I expose myself, because what you're doing is by the images that you show, is a decision-making process that an image can speak many words, because probably the employer is reading his Instagram. Are we changing their behavior or personality and assessing on what they can do with the information that you share online? First and foremost, thank you for the question. It's a valid question. To answer this is, let me tell you that privacy has many dimensions. It's very complex. It cannot address it in one way. Is very interdisciplinary, very cross-functional. I address this from the point of view of the user. Also, we have the corporate aspect of it, and it's precisely what you're saying. But why does a platform is presented itself as friendly, risk-free? Why aren't any signals that can convey some reflection when it comes to make the decision of posting? From the point of view of consumer, let me explain this easy. You buy chips and you see the nutritional label and you decide whether you like to buy the chips or not, or if you want to eat them. When you go to social media, there are no labels. If you read the policies, there are no guidelines that explain the risk component, not even horizontally or vertically. We analyzed the risk patterns and we want to do it with other experiments that we have planned, and we use only risks that are self-disclosure risks. That is a mechanism by which you or the user discloses solely his or her data. So we use patterns for undesirable incidents that may result by which we disclose that data, because platforms disclose private data and that turning into public information. So we should make savvier decisions, well-informed decisions. However, if we're lucky enough, we're going to be successful. And the only time where we reflect on this is when something bad happens, something detrimental, or somebody or the boss that had a look at the picture, and there they reflect on the processes that are not that impulsive or not based on impulses. There are many questions. Can we turn on the light? Prendelas, no hay problema. No, prendelas. Yeah, we can turn them on. Yes, I have a quick question. I'm online. I'm Federico from Argentina. In line with what Nicholas was saying, because probably you have experimental research that is being done, probably you have proven empirically the paradox of privacy. The idea that users are respectful of their privacy, but when it comes to benefits or when it comes to posting, what is it that they do? I try to summarize that question. Excellent question. The privacy paradox, together with the calculus paradox, are the two theories that are the most successful or popular theories. Privacy paradox argues that when people are asked if they're concerned with privacy, they're going to tell you, yes, I am very concerned about my privacy. Well, when we see their behavior over the social media, they have public profiles, a lot of sensitive information, and there's a lot of research that produced empirical evidence that this actually happens. Now, the problem is that research has revealed in privacy that instruments that are used to validate the hypothesis or to respond to research are self-reports. So it's a survey that you're asking, are you taking care of privacy? And I said yes. But that is not consistent with their actual behavior. The privacy calculus adds one more component, and that is why we conducted this research. It adds the risk component. What the privacy calculus argues is that when we make a decision when it comes to our privacy, we are going to calculate the cost and the benefits of disclosing that information to a certain target audience. And when the benefits outweigh the cost, we're going to disclose that information. The problem lies when there are no risks that weigh between costs and benefits. One outweigh more than the other. So when it comes to decision making in social media, it's very difficult to estimate rationally what cost is gonna outweigh the benefit, and people end up disclosing more information than what they originally intended. Hello, hello. Larissa Martinez from the Dominican Republic. Thank you for being here. In some of the discussions held in conferences, we usually wonder questions of this kind. And even though you widely discuss encryption, end-to-end encryption algorithms, we are concerned that phishing, for example, you don't have a panic attack or panic button for phishing or for acquaintances that may activate that alarm, so it goes off and prevent an attack based on phishing or identity theft. So how do you see this? How did you approach it? So in a single platform, we could have these features. This should be taken by Paloma. As she's gone, I cannot give you an answer, and I cannot give you my opinion either. Another question here. Hello, hello. Yes. Nicholas. Hi, my name is Luz. I'm from Argentina. I like the concept of the information bubble. And I have a reflection on a question. Since we are on social media, we are inside the bubble. That is implicit. Especially from the information point of view, the way you like or the way you watch news, the same social media is adding additional information related to the news, and that depends on the recommendations of networks. Shall we cancel or suppress those algorithms to open up and to prevent the appearance or the emergence of these bubbles? Because I believe that they're not good at all. What is it that? Yeah, I totally agree with you. One of the things that I question in platforms is recommended news. Since we don't have another outlook that is antagonistic to what we have embedded in our minds, it's very difficult to leave the bubble information. There are many papers on the spiral of silence. So when you give your opinion, whether it is off or online, what we measure is the climate of opinion, the number of people that are aligned with my opinion and how many are not. The more people we have in line with my opinion, they said, okay, this is the case. But if there are lots of people that are against my opinion, I am going to remain silent. So probably the conversation will follow suit in that direction. So it's great what you see or what you're saying. And to find ways of recommendations that are not introducing these bubbles of information. There are antagonistic news, biases, and there are many recommendations or guidelines, but this is not easy. My name is Carlos Chal from Argentina, and I had a couple of questions that are not going to be easy to take. However, probably they are going to remain open or unanswered. We are speaking a lot about hate speech here. Is that a database or a common ground to establish if this constitutes a hate speech or not? Internationally, what are the standards? What actions can we take regarding that? And secondly, the self-restriction, the self-censorship, it seems to me that is a restriction or limitation to freedom of speech. How did you approach this sensitive issue? Thank you very much. Let me take the second question first. This was related to the first woman that asked if the interventions that we made could lead to self-censorship. And I believe your question is related to that topic. Nudging. Are paternalistic or soft paternalism, nudges, or smooth paternalism in nature. The user eventually is the one that makes the decision whether he likes to post or disclose his information or not. The important thing is to face or to be faced with a reality that is he is running risks. The framing situation of a certain pattern of risk has an impact. It's not the same doing it one way, authoritarian, or reaching consensus. I mean, there are many shades or considerations that we have to take into account, but it's not going to lead to self-censorship, especially if we consider the case that is a paternalistic mechanism. Now, to take the first question, that is a speech hate speech in Argentina. What can we do about it? Okay, this is wondered by governments, nations, and they don't know what to do, whether to mother regulate. Personally speaking, to tell you the truth, we should underscore to promote education or training on top of social media, how to use these platforms in a healthier way. Because sometimes there's misunderstanding, there's a lot of noise in these platforms, rumbles. I have Twitter, for example. I'm a user, but I'm not a heavy user. I'm basically use it for academic purposes, and I am kind of isolated or distant from social networks or social media. But when I see the noise that is created, many times it doesn't lead to any positive gains. And we need to be aware of how to make this platform a better place for everybody. Can you summarize with two elements what is required to improve the content of information that is shared on social media, and what does it depend on? Improvements of information over social media, and what does it depend on? I think that to a greater or lesser extent, it depends on the platform. We're not critical of users. It's not that they are irresponsible and sharing or posting whatever they like. We want platforms to provide the necessary elements so a user could make a better decision, well-informed decision. That's why we're critical of those platforms. That's on the one hand. On the other is that governments have to drive this perspective or these concepts for users to have the necessary tools to better use social media. Thank you very much. Round of applause for the panelists.